Well, good morning. Good morning. It is so good to be here with you. I want to just say thank you again, Harold, to having us out this morning. My name is Corey Moses. I'm the pastor of the Wesley Foundation at Tarleton State University. Some of you I may have met. I've filled in preaching for Harold a couple of times, and as of this morning, I'm on the schedule again for this summer. So I look forward to seeing you all again this summer. I'm excited for you to hear some of the things that God is doing through the Wesley Foundation in the lives of our students. But before that, I want to just kind of take some time to talk with you about who we are, about what our mission is, and what we are about. And so a little bit about myself. I grew up in Brownwood, Texas. I grew up a good Baptist boy. Some of you have heard this story, though you may not remember it. I grew up a good Baptist boy. As I got a little bit older into college, I didn't make a very good Baptist. And then I moved to the Methodist Church and started as the director of music and worship at Granbury First United Methodist, where I met Jesus and became a Methodist. That's a joke. Man, it's a tough crowd, Harold. But while growing up in Brownwood, I grew up at First Baptist Church Brownwood, and we had a very, very successful music program. They had what they called a graded music program. So that means we had like 3 children's choirs, we had the children's hand chimes, we had a youth choir, we had a youth handbells, we had an adult choir, adult handbells. I mean, it was a full music program. And I'm a product of that. And in fact, in my junior year in high school, I felt God calling me to the ministry. I felt God calling me specifically to music ministry. And so that's what I pursued. My education, my church experience was all in music ministry. And so it was quite a culture shock when I get a phone call from Joseph Nader that said, "Hey, we think you might be a good fit for the Tarleton Wesley Foundation." I said, "The what?" I said, "I don't know what a Wesley Foundation is. I don't know anything about how to do the job, and nothing about my education or background says that I'm your guy." And he says, "Well, I'll tell you what." He said, "I'm going to call you back in a week, and I want you to tell me if you feel called to campus ministry or not." So, long story short, I did send my resume, interviewed, here I am. But while growing up at First Baptist Brownwood, there was always this event that happened in the summers with the children's choir where we would take a trip for a weekend with several other church choirs from the area, and we would spend the weekend at this camp in the woods learning music that we were going to be working on for the next year. And I remember this series of events very vividly. It was the end of our last day there, and we were kind of finishing up cleaning the cabins and everything, and I was about 11 or 12, and my buddy and I decided that we really didn't get the opportunity to explore the woods very much while we were there. And we thought, well, we're not doing anything right now. We don't have anything going on. We've got a few minutes till it's time to leave. Excuse me. And if any of you know anything about 11 and 12-year-old boys, you know that idle time is not good. Those two things do not mix well. And so Daniel was his name. Daniel and I, we took off running through the woods. And it wasn't long before we didn't know where we were. I could hear the people at the cabin, and what's worse, I could hear vans starting. And panic set in. Now, in reality, I was maybe only 100 yards from the cabin in the woods, but it may as well have been 100 miles to an 11 or 12-year-old boy. Because you see, when we took off into the woods, we didn't take provisions with us. We didn't take a map. We didn't leave a trail of breadcrumbs. We didn't take a compass. We didn't take anything with us. We just thought, hey, what's over there? And we took off. Now, eventually we just kept running. We did not do what they tell you to do. You know, they say when you get lost, just sit still. We didn't do that. We just kept running. And we eventually found our way out of the woods. Excuse me, goodness. We eventually found our way out of the woods, and the music director of the church was not very happy with us because everybody was waiting on us to come out of the woods so that we could go home. But we didn't take a compass with us. And so we didn't know where we were going. And we didn't know when we were going to get there because we didn't have anything to show us the way. And the Apostle Paul knew something about this. He knew something about how important this compass is to guide the mission. You see, Paul knew that without some basic foundational ideas and truths to lead these churches that he was working with, they would just end up wandering through the woods hoping to find their way out. You need a compass. You need to know where you're going. And our text for today is a really small portion of this letter that Paul has written to the people at Rome. There's this long series of events that you can read through Acts that lead Paul to writing this letter. He's been called before the Jewish Apostolic Council for these things that he's teaching that they see are heretical, and they say, hey, we need you to stop teaching this. And he says, well, I just can't do that because this is who I believe God is. And they said, and there's this really exciting scene that happens where they're about to stone him to death because he won't recant. And right at the last minute, soldiers come in and arrest him, saving his life. But interestingly, they actually mistook him for somebody else. But anyway, Paul finally gets tired of all of this, and he says, you know what? I'm going to move to Rome, where the Apostolic Council can't reach me, and I can be free to teach Jesus Christ, death and resurrection, and the grace and love of our Lord to people as I believe it, free of the arm of the Apostolic Council. So he's writing this letter to Rome to say, hey, this is who I am. I'm on my way there. This is what I believe. And he's laying out his compass to the people at Rome. Once again, he writes, love should be shown without pretending. Hate evil and hold on to what is good. Love each other like the members of your family. Be the best at showing honor to one another. Don't hesitate to be enthusiastic. Be on fire in the Spirit as you serve the Lord. Be happy in your hope. Stand your ground. And when you're in trouble, devote yourselves to prayer. And so what Paul's saying is this is the compass of my faith. This guides and informs how I live out my faith. I love God by being this. And Paul's saying, I love fully. And because you matter to God, you matter to me. And he's saying, I've come to know God as a God of love, mercy, and grace. And we should all love God by showing that same love, mercy, and grace to the world around us as if they're part of our family. And if you read the first part of chapter 12, he's making a shift in the letter. And the earlier part was more about his theology, what he believed about God. But here in chapter 12, he makes this shift to the practical. Now that we've talked about what we believe about God, we need to talk about how we can put this into action. How we can live out this new faith. As he puts it, how are we to be these new beings in Christ as we behave and interact with one another? And for Paul, as he says many times throughout his other letters, in all things we should imitate Christ. And he starts by discussing in chapter 12 that we should be completely transformed by renewing our minds. In other words, we are to give of ourselves and our resources to one another. We're to serve one another in love. And he even says, consider everyone equal and don't think yourself better than anyone else. Live out your love for God by serving others and living righteously. And I think it all comes down to his first statement in that text, that your love should be without pretending. In other words, our love for one another should be genuine, authentic, and real. And for Paul, it's this deep, life-giving love of God and God's grace that gives us the capacity to live out this radical love to the world around us. He encourages us to do things like embracing the good things in life, pray for each other, being humble, live at peace with each other. In other words, be Christ to the world around you without exception. At the Wesley, we feel quite the same way as Paul's sentiments in this passage. we have a mission at the Wesley. Our mission is to make disciples of Jesus Christ for the transformation of the world and to raise up the next generation of leaders. Because I believe wholeheartedly that if you want to change the world, you change the campus. If you want to transform the world, transform the university campus. We are to make disciples of Jesus Christ for the transformation of the campus and to raise up the next generation of leaders. So we do a lot of leadership development. I meet with each one of our leadership team for an hour every other week for that purpose, one-on-one discipleship and leadership development. And our vision for how we're going to play that out is a three-point compass. Love God, serve others, and live righteously. Now, when we talk about love God, we're not talking about warm, affectionate feelings for God. We're not talking about thinking favorably of God. Love is an act of will. And Paul's not calling us to just feel good about God, but to live out our love for God in action. And we do this by the other 2 points on our compass: serve others and live righteously. We are a people who love God by serving others. And for Paul, the church is to be a new community that's not based on divisions that exist in the world, but instead, it's a new community based on their new humanity that is found in Jesus. And the Greek word that he uses is koinonio. And it means to share or to be in fellowship. And that koinonio that Paul's describing is a place where all members are essential and all members are connected. And so love, therefore, is neither an idea or a concept. Love is actually the glue that keeps the community together. Love is what knits the body together, making it one. And so live righteously means living fully into the grace of God at work in and through you. It means seeking after the things of God and God's kingdom. It means observing the spiritual disciplines of prayer, Bible study, worship, and so forth. And living righteously has a lot to say about how we treat people. And it means seeing people the way that God sees them and treating them accordingly. So at the Wesley, we have a three-point compass that guides and directs everything that we do. Love God, serve others, and live righteously. And what we hope is that our students will experience a group of people that passionately love God and that put that love of God into action by service of others and faithful discipleship in the life of our community of faith. But also, more importantly, almost, is that we find that our students will find a community of faith where they can be 100% who they are. College is an interesting time in life. We have many students that come to us that for the first time in their life, they're away from home, and they're starting to tackle these tough questions of who am I? What do I believe? And so we work very intentional and deliberate about fostering a safe space for these students to ask these questions. Many times in my Bible study, my students will tell you, most of the time it's just a bunch of questions and dialogue, and we don't walk out with an answer. Because a lot of the questions that come up, there really is no answer for, at least not a good one. And so we try to build an environment where students feel safe to explore these questions of okay, I'm no longer the high school student from Mansfield, Texas. I'm no longer my parents' daughter or son. Now I'm my own person. And what does that mean? Who am I in the world? And so they work through these identity issues, and it's a safe space. And that, sometimes that can be hard. And so we encourage them to 100% be who they are, and they are welcomed. Love God, serve others, and live righteously. We're about to hire a third intern in a local church. We have other students serving as youth directors, youth interns. We take a mission trip every year within the United States. Every other year we take an international mission trip. We have Bible study groups that meet every day of the week almost, that are led by students. And the thing that we are most intentional about is one-on-one discipleship. Because I believe personally that ministry above all else is about relationships. It's about building relationships. And my students will tell you, if given the choice 10 times out of 10 between sitting in my office with the door closed, studying, writing a sermon, or answering emails, or sitting in the coffee shop, building relationships, getting to know those students and loving on them, I will always choose getting to know the students and loving on the students, always without fail. Because I think ministry is about investing yourself in the lives of those around you. And I'm here to tell you, Harold, I'm sure you've heard this before, because I know I've heard it when speaking with individuals, hearing lament from people about the future of our denomination or our world because of the young people, or what they see in the news about the younger generations or whatever. But I'm here to tell you that we do not have to worry, because the students that I have at the Wesley are some of the most incredible students I've ever met. And to be flat honest, they're all much better disciples of Jesus than I am or ever will be. I'm so excited about our future. Our future is in good hands because God is at work in the lives of these students. Our goal at the Wesley is not only to make disciples, but raise up the next generation of leaders. And we're working towards that. And so, just an idea, every dollar that you donate to the Tarleton Wesley Foundation goes directly towards ministry. Yes, we have some administrative costs, we have an electric bill, we have things like that, but it all goes directly to ministry. Other than a portion of our budget that we receive from the Central Texas Conference that is a direct result of your apportionment dollars, we survive from charitable donations, from individuals, from churches. And so everything that you give to the Wesley Foundation goes directly to ministry. It will fund Bible study materials, mission trip expenses, and other related costs. And if you happen to be looking for specific ways to give, like maybe your Sunday school class says, hey, we want a specific project, then come talk to me, because I'm sure Harold's the same way. We've got a wish list. And so if you have already given your regular tithe to your community of faith here, and you're looking for another place to give above and beyond, we hope that you'll consider giving to the Tarleton Wesley. We do have merchandise in the back. We've got some t-shirts, some car stickers, some other things like that are for sale. And we're just so thankful for the opportunity to be here with you today. Let me pray for you real quick. God of love, mercy, and grace, you are good, and it is always so exhilarating to hear the work that you are doing in the lives of these students. Thank you. Thank you. And I thank you for this community of faith here in Olney. Thank you for Harold and his leadership here. I ask that you bless our time together and bless this church. And may you do great things through this community of faith in the community of Olney. We ask all this in the name of Christ, the risen King. Amen.